more
I guess
protests
just
and
cue me
violence
when
as
I
the U.S.
want me to come
decision
in
endorse
during the theme
Jerusalem as
music.
the official capital of Israel. That decision's having political ramifications, as CBS's Robert Berger explains.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas.
Well, at least there's two of us, in case you
That's
do.
right.
So I can just keep the show
Keep
going.
it going.
Want to open the door, get some cooler air in here?
Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Just, like I said, just put that chair
That's great, man.
on some stuff and stuff.
This program is a paid commercial presentation.
This is
The
us.
comments, views, and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or advertisers of Delaware 105.9.
Good morning, Delaware, and welcome to Coastal A&E. I'm your host, Michael Sprouse, and we are broadcasting live from the beautiful studios, the beautiful and wintry studios of Delaware 105.9 FM. For the next hour, you are in the house of Sprouse, and we are going to take a jump into the creative side of the surf. It's a bit of a winter wonderland out there this morning, folks. If you looked out the window, I'm looking through the weather window right now. You know, it's snowy, it's pretty, it's seasonal. Considering, well, there was a day last week, wasn't there, Fran? It was about 60 degrees. I had it topped out on the bug.
Oh yeah, it was like 63.
That's
I
right.
went fishing. It was wonderful. I had a sweater on.
Something's not right with this weather, but it is December. You know, we're a couple of weeks outside of Christmas, so I think this is weather appropriate. Maybe there needs to be medals for artists that brave the winter weather to come in and do a live radio show. We have to think about how we're going to make that happen. One of those things.
Talk to my boss.
Hey, speaking of talking, I have a very special guest with me today for the entire hour. He's one of my dearest friends. We've been friends for many years. He's a brilliant artist, incredibly talented artist. Recently, in an article that came out over the summer in the USA Today, I called him one of the highest recognized art educators in the country. He has a book that came out recently called Dual Lives, From the Streets to the Studio, which is available on Amazon.com. His name is Michael Bell, and he is visiting us from the Chesapeake Bay region, and I'm really happy to have him here. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's
Yeah,
good to be here.
It's a lot of fun. I just posted a photo of us on our Facebook page.
In the midst of this winter wonderland.
That's right. He's like, "Where are you taking me?" Yeah, this weather's sort of crazy. Actually, after I'm done with this radio show, I'm going to be taking a trip to Ocean City for a Comic-Con. I think it's the first Comic-Con in Ocean City, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
It's a close second to this radio
That's
show.
right. I'm braving the winter weather everywhere we go today because, you know, that's what we do. You know, you got to get out there and work for your art. It's all good stuff, very good stuff.
It's all good.
So I'm going to start talking to Michael here in just a minute, but I want to give you guys a reminder. If you have a question or comment, feel free to call or text on the Delaware 105.9 FM hotline at 302-839-1059. Give you guys a heads up, so we'd be very happy to take your comments or questions. So Michael, where do we start with this conversation? Maybe we should start about how we met and all the sort of crazy
Sure.
stories around that.
Start from the beginning, why not?
So I would say that was about 15 years ago, maybe?
At least,
Something
yeah.
like that. I had a gallery in Washington, D.C. It was called Eclecticos, and we'd had it for several years. I was the owner and curator of the gallery. And one day, you know, I'm online just doing a little research on Google. Now, you know, for those of you who remember, being about 15 or so years ago, Google wasn't quite as fine-tuned as it is now. You know, you could still get some strange responses to some search inquiries at the time. And I was doing a little PR check on the gallery, you know, Eclecticos. I was looking out there and seeing what was popping up. And I come across a website for an artist named Michael Bell. And I went to the site. I'm like, that's interesting. Why is this popping up under Eclecticos? There was no connection whatsoever. I'm still not sure how it happened. It was sort of a universal fluke. I really liked the artwork, and I did something that I don't normally do at that time. I sent you an email, and I said, hey, I really like your work. You just happen to pop up on my radar. If you ever are in D.C., you know, stop by and say, hey, you know, we can talk about some of your work or something.
Yeah, and I did the uncustomary thing, which, you know, most artists would have emailed you back and said, when can I have a show?
That's right. That's right, but it didn't happen.
Thanks for reaching out. No, I reached back out, and it was just funny because I remember you specifically saying, if you're ever in the DC area, you know, you should pop by. And I said, well, as fate would have it, I had just gotten back from Lake Powell, where I was doing a photo shoot for a painting client, that wanted to be photographed in Lake Powell for the painting. And the very next night, I was scheduled to go to DC to I believe it was the Newmark Gallery.
Correct.
And I was visiting another artist friend, and so I told you, hey, I'm actually going to be there. I'm going to be there tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And when I said the Newmark Gallery, you were like,
What? That's so for people who didn't know, the Newmark Gallery at the time was right next door to my gallery.
Literally, sharing a wall.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we shared a wall. We were on the third floor of the galleries and on 7th Street there in Northwest, very top floor, literally right next door. So I'm like, well, that's uncanny, man. You have to stop by.
yeah, fate would happen. You know, it's really uncanny how we met, the circumstances that that surrounded that, and we never looked back.
No, it was pretty wild, and I remember that was a incredibly packed opening. I mean, there were several galleries in this building.
It was jammed.
Hundreds and hundreds of people everywhere, and you're going up and down the stairs, and there's wine, and everyone, it was a really fun art gallery experience. And I really wasn't sure what you looked like. I remember that I was on your site very briefly. I was looking at your art, so I wasn't sure. And I was
Likewise.
walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden we passed each other, and I just got this weird, I'm like, I think that's Michael Bell.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, that's gotta be Michael Sprouse.
And we
I wonder if that's
stopped,
him.
yeah. And like, we pointed at each other like, are you? And here we are.
Here we are. And it was funny because I remember sitting in and listening to you talking with your gallery patrons.
Mhm.
And you were handling your clientele in a very similar way that I handle my clientele. And, very charismatic, very approachable, unlike a lot of art gallery scenes and a lot of art gallery dealers out there.
True.
And, so it was great speaking with you, and I believe I even bought a piece of yours that night.
You
It was
did, you bought a print.
Out of, just out of respect. I mean, this is what you do. I liked your work, and so that was my way of letting you know that it wasn't just
Yeah.
an empty gesture.
I was wildly impressed.
And,
I'll say
yeah.
that.
And
That
then
was
we-
a great thing to do.
And then we kept in touch.
Yeah, we kept in touch, and in fact, over the years, we have had several shows together.
Yeah.
We actually, we'll talk more about this in the hour. We literally paint together, have created paintings together side by side, working on the same piece in what we call collaboration art.
Yeah, I would like to say that, while it's been around in different forms over the centuries, I would say we are pioneers of that movement in this area, definitely. I've never seen any other artists doing it quite the way that we do it in this area at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've seen, traditionally when people think about collaboration art, you have a work and someone comes up and does their thing to it. Maybe it goes to a different studio, maybe people will come over
Like
at
adding
different
pieces
times.
to the puzzle. Yeah.
Correct. But we were literally right next, painting at the same time, just like not questioning what the other person was doing.
Sure. Painting over somebody else's
Correct.
work,
Yeah.
you made this mark, why did you do that?
So in order, you have to be very confident about yourself and the person you're working with in order to do that. But when it works really, really well.
It's synergy, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's just a very super amazing thing. I mean, that we've had this great friendship centered around art, and there's other artists out there that, of course, have that. You have many friends that are artists. I certainly have many friends that are artists. And
I do, just not quite on the same level as you and I in terms of just the way that we work so well together and complement each other's styles.
Yeah, because we have similar work. They're very narrative. You were discussing that last night. Tell us about your work for the people who aren't familiar with it.
Okay, well, for the people that aren't familiar with my work is very narrative. It's very cinematic. I would liken it to almost a film still from a movie, except the difference is, a photograph is a captured moment, and what I like to do is I like to build the moment through an accumulation of time and paint and energy and create an experience as opposed to capturing one. So that's really the main difference. But the works, often I'll create an entire series of works that go together where a work can have its own meaning by itself, but when it's placed in a specific viewing order with amongst other works, it tells a much larger tale, almost like storyboards.
Yeah, they're really almost like
So-
chapters of a
Like
story.
chapters of a story.
Your work is very narrative. It's very powerful. So one of the things that I know about your work, your color palette is very powerful too. There are often colors that people wouldn't normally use because they're when you're painting, you realize these are very strong colors. It's easy to make a mistake with these colors.
Sure.
It's used to, if you use them improperly, but you're going there with them. Deep reds, blacks, blues. You have a lot of sort of a noir feeling to a lot of your work.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think that my color palette actually evolved over time just from really painting with you too, because you would do this thing with your phthalo blues all the time. With, you know, it's like this bright, vibrant greenish blue that you would, you know, gloss over some of your paintings with, and then wipe away for shadows and light. And I always loved that. I always admired that boldness that you'd be able to slap that color right in. So I think that, you know, that also contributed towards, you know, some of the things that I've been doing for years as well.
We definitely have learned of each other's techniques, without a doubt. And yeah, it's funny. The first time you see that, first time I did that it was a fluke. It was a mistake. I was
Absolutely.
painting something like, what have I done? I started like removing it. I'm like, hey, wait a second. That makes a really great subtle shadow layer, and it gives it a lot of depth. So, you know, so if you're standing in the studio and you're watching someone painting and they take a big paint and cover the whole thing with this deeply paint.
What are they doing?
It's like,
You're ruining
you
it.
ruined
Yeah, what are you
everything.
doing?
But then, so it's really about taking away.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah,
retract.
exactly. And in fact, if anyone wants to see examples of Michael work, if you're in front of a computer, you can go to his website, mbellart.com. It's very informative. There's of course examples of his work, and you have a really distinguished career as an art educator.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
and you've won awards. You've helped many students win awards, and you've done TED Talks, and you have a book. You wrote a book, man. Who does that?
Most people do it at the very end of their career. I figured it would be more relevant and, I don't know, more poignant to do it while I was at the top of my game, while I was still in the trenches with everybody else, so that people would see it as relevant.
Yeah, and it is. It's your life up to this point.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you'll continue this.
Yes,
Let's
there's
knock
many
on wood.
chapters to come.
That's all right.
Like Peter Gotti said in my foreword, he believed that I have yet to paint my masterpiece, and whatever that means, whether it's a painting, whether it's I believe it's another chapter in my career. I believe I have yet to paint that too.
Oh, I agree, man. There's still a lot of exciting chapters to come out in this book, and you referenced Peter Gotti, and I think that anyone that would go to your website that would even that would take a look at the book would pretty quickly realize that we're talking about infamous Peter Gotti, because you had some connections at a time with as an artist.
Well, Peter Gotti's father was a mobster, not Peter himself. And,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Yes, let me make that correction. His father was the.
His father was the iconic mob boss.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, 90s, and I became friends with Peter and his brother John and sisters over time through my artwork. They commissioned me to paint the cover of John Jr.'s book Shadow of My Father, and we just developed a kinship. We're also just men that are fathers, fighting for our sons, and we're creative people and doing exciting things together. So
That's right, and a lot of these stories have made it into your work. I mean, when we talk about the narrative qualities of your work, you've got some scenery there that's pretty, look like maybe something out of Goodfellas.
well, it's when you're friends with some colorful characters, they definitely take part in your work, and it's really interesting because the dichotomy between you and I too, and the work that we do. While you've often painted people that are dead and gone, I've always really chosen to paint people that I know, that are here and living, but people that I know in my work. I've found that's been important to me. Yet we both share a very similar narrative, through the work, where we want to share a story. We want to allow the viewer to participate in the reenactment. We want them to put some pieces to the puzzle together too.
Absolutely.
We don't alienate anybody.
I think that's one of the things about narrative work, and we certainly refer to each other's work as that, because I think it's spot on. Because if you're standing in front of one of these paintings and you're starting to, whether you like it, whether you or love it, whether you hate it, you're having a relationship with that painting.
You're there, yeah, you're there. You're in the scene.
Yeah.
You're a part of the scene.
Absolutely, and that's what's so cool about painting, and often people whether, as I just said, they realize it or not, they start going there mentally. You know, they like, I remember once I had a show in one of the galleries in DC, and when Michael says you paint dead people, it sounds like a scene there of, I paint dead people.
They're
But-
haunting images.
haunting
Haunting images of what? I would say
They're vintage photographs,
vintage,
yes.
very vintage photographs.
Absolutely, there's no way these people could be alive, so
I
that's
couldn't describe that much better. Very sorry.
No, I'm not. It's because it's true. Yeah. So there's no. I don't know most of the people that I do portrait. I don't know them, but I'm sort of taken by an old photo, and I do my interpretation of it. But we had a show once, and you may have been at this opening. I can't remember. And there was this very nice elderly man who just became obsessed with one of these paintings, and to the point where he may have had too much of the free wine. He was talking to the painting, you know, he was sort of looking at it, and he was definitely developing a relationship with this piece. But it just goes to show you how powerful narrative art can be. And you've had these experiences with your work.
Absolutely, and you know, I think it's so important for people out there, if they're purchasing art, if they're just appreciating art. I mean, the big difference in work that we do is it has an energy about it. It's got a soul, and when you look at it, and when it's in a room, it changes a room. It transforms the space, and it makes you feel like you're someplace else, which is great, because I've always loved the energy behind our work. You know what I mean? It's always been a positive energy. It's always been trying to find something endearing about the colorful characters that surround our lives, or the people that we're interested in. Even the vignettes of the people that you found from these vintage photographs, trying to figure out what their story was, and recreating who you see them as. So it's interesting.
Oh, it's very interesting. Let me ask you a question, because we're both ultimately figurative painters.
Sure.
Do you feel that abstract work has that same, can you find that narrative, can you find that level of excitement? And I also I create abstract paintings too. I mean, I do really enjoy the freedom of that.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I've never been a good abstract painter. You have much better abstract painting than I can.
That was my leading, no, it wasn't where I was taking this.
No,
But
I
I'm
know.
curious, because you, as an art educator yourself, you must work with students that have all different types of varying interests in what they want to produce
Sure,
through work.
absolutely. And the ultimate goal is to have anybody be their best self. You know, we're not after a bunch of clones. I personally, I don't know. I can't. I don't get too emotionally invested in an abstract piece. When I look at the abstract piece, I think it's because I'm drawn to the figure because there's something human to it. There's a human experience there. There's something empathetic about the figure or the people that are in the scenes. It's not necessarily exactly what they're doing or their expression, but it's just the energy behind the fact that there's someone, and they have an energy to them. Abstract pieces, they just don't do it for me. While I do love some very colorful works and some passionate, reds and some Rothkos and things like that, they just don't move me like a figurative work moves me. I guess that's the best way I could.
No, I hear you. That's interesting. I was curious as to what your input. And I think people will always find a connection to figurative work, narrative work. As you just said, I believe, in their psyche. I mean, what was it just a couple of weeks ago? The Da Vinci piece, the Salvador Mundi, sold for $450 million at auction.
Well, and I think, and this is just my opinion, so no offense to you abstract artists out there, but for me, I believe that people will purchase abstract artwork because it is safe. It's something they can put on their walls safely, and it's not something they have to try to understand or defend, ever. Whereas a figurative work or a narrative piece, definitely something that it creates a conversation around. And some people are uncomfortable talking about art. You see it all the time at the gallery, right? See people walking by the storefront, almost like, peeking in, like, can I go in? Should I go in? Oh my God, what if I go in, they ask me questions and I don't know what I'm talking about?
True,
You know,
true.
It's amazing.
You know, there's going to be an angry mob of abstract painters in black berets in the parking lot in about 2 minutes.
Well, I'm hoping that the
Go get 'em,
weather
Fred.
is going to deter that.
Yeah, that's
so
like
I'm safe today.
I can see those goatees from here. But you know, you brought up a good point. This is interesting about art gallery, and when we've had that experience, every gallery that I've either worked in or operated, there would be people that they would walk to the door, and it was like there was a force field. And I would say, you can come in, like, that's okay. I'm just peeking.
Just peeking.
I'm just peeking. Like, come in. No, that's okay, that's okay. I could never get that. It was, you know, it's really, I mean, you're going in, the way that you would go into, I don't know, a store to buy a suit, ultimately. I mean, you know, when you think about it.
And ultimately, when the work's up on the wall, I mean, it's really open to the viewer's interpretation, whatever it may be, you know, whatever it is. It's funny, had a conversation in New York back in 2012. Chuck Close was there, and I was there for that NAEA convention, and I was doing a presentation with
Brilliant
Eric
artist,
Fischel.
brilliant artist.
Absolutely, unbelievable, and an unbelievable speaker. And he was telling me this story about how he was in college trying to figure out his voice and what his style should be. And one of his professors was giving him a critique, and was looking around the room and saying, oh, I see a little influence of this artist here. I see a little influence of that artist there. And then, you know, on and on this went. And all of a sudden, Chuck said, I realized, wait a minute, there's all these other artists here. I'm nowhere in the room.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
even,
right.
you know, where's my voice? He
Sure.
said, that's when I decided to change it up. And, you know, he'd always did the grid method with these hyper-realistic large works. He decided to break those cubes down into something original, and his original voice, you know, shined through. So I think it's a matter of doing what it is that everybody has something that they're good at, and everyone has a story. It's, you know, for me, it's always about tell your story, tell your own story, because there's an importance to that. You don't have to look any further than what you have inside of you already for your material. It's there. It's, you know, it's in your life.
True. And so what part of, when an artist is creating a painting, in particular, let's say a narrative piece, a figurative piece, what part of them, in your opinion, is going into that piece? I mean, it's beyond, I mean, obviously, you know, there's tactile talent.
Sure.
But what part of that psyche do you think? Because there is part of it.
Oh, I always put a little, you know, there's always a piece of me that goes into every work that I create. I mean, there's always that. I think that's when style emerges. It's, you know, when you produce enough work that you can actually recognize that sea you're swimming in and see what it is that you do that's uniquely you. But I'm definitely pouring that energy of, I liken it to this. Like, you know when you meet somebody for the first time, and as you get to know them, as they get to talking, their face changes. Am I right? Have you ever had
Absolutely.
this experience
Sure,
happen?
yeah,
I'm sure
absolutely.
our viewers, you know, the listeners, I'm sure they all have all had this experience
Yeah.
happen. What that is that's personality coming through. So that's why people are not really reducible one single way. Like if a portrait, you know, for a portrait client, for example, somebody commissions me to paint their portrait, I like to get to know them so that I know what I'm painting, because people look different in every photograph, depending on who's captured them and what the, you know, what the mood was, or what the camera even captured, that micro expression or whatever it is. But to get to know them, then you can pour that into the work, so that when people look at the work, they see it and they're like, oh wow, yeah, that is them. Regardless of, likeness is easy, but it's capturing the inside, that's always what I'm really after. And
Absolutely.
I think that's the hardest part. That takes true talent, that takes true skill.
Sometimes everyone has been, you know, at some point maybe going to an old antique store or something, and you'll see paintings that who knows how they ended up there. You know, there's paintings of people. Some of them look great, and some of them look very forgettable. I was going to say something that some of them look like, so you brush by them. The ones, though, however, that have captured people, yeah, you're like, that is a cool painting, and it may not be that it's so good technically, but that they've captured
Something about
soul
them,
there.
sure.
Hey, listen, I want to give everyone a reminder that you know, you can give us a call or text at the Delaware 105.9 FM hotline, 302-839-1059.
Probably just not if you're driving. 'Cause
That's
of the
right.
weather.
That's right. And I think we're going to be going to a break here pretty soon, but I'm real happy to have Michael back. In my second half hour, we're going to talk about some of the collaboration art projects that we do and some ideas we're thinking about moving forward with. and maybe put out there ways that if you're interested in painting, maybe joining some of that, you can get involved in doing some collaboration art projects with us. Well, that'd be cool, Michael.
Sounds fantastic. I'm excited to be back in the second half.
Yeah, good. So stay tuned. Maybe you're inside, staying warm and cozy in this winter weather, and this is the perfect thing to be listening to. Maybe you're sitting there in front of that blank canvas, and you're like, what am I going to do with this canvas now? Listen to these two guys and pick up my paintbrush and
Give me some ideas, Colin. Yeah.
start some narrative things. So I think we're going to a break pretty much any second now. So again, give us a call, 302-839-1059, and check out Michael's website, mbellart.com. And you can check out his work, and when we come back in the second half hour, we'll have some more questions and comments, hopefully, and we'll keep this conversation rolling.
This one isn't the big one. Over the last 3.5 years, you've watched me on WRVE, NBC Coast TV as the host of the Arts Entertainment Program.
That sounds so much better. Oh, yeah.
Only on Delaware 105.9 FM. Every Saturday morning between 11 and 12, I'll bring you the latest and greatest news about all the exciting arts and entertainment events in Delaware, from music to movies, photography to painting, with special in-house guests and more. We'll cover it all. So join Michael Sprouse with Coastal A&E every Saturday morning at 11 and take a creative jump in the surf.
Like them on Facebook. The following program is a paid commercial presentation. The comments, views, and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or advertisers of Delaware 105.9.
You should go live on your you should go live on your phone in selfie mode for a second on Facebook Live.
We are back. Welcome back to the second half hour of Coastal A&E. I'm your host, Michael Sprouse. You're in the house of Sprouse, and I am really, really happy to have my guest, my dear friend, artist Michael Bell.
The House of Sprouse.
House of
I like
Sprouse.
that. I like that.
Yeah, that's the music here when you walk in my house. It's my doorbell.
I'm gonna make that my ringtone for you. That's for you now.
I wait to answer the door until the music everybody starts getting their groove on. You know.
Hey, every hero has to have their theme song.
That's right. You need a theme song.
I do.
Do you have one? You gonna
I
make
do,
one?
I don't, but I will say that Batman and I have never been seen at the same place
That's
at the
a
same
good
time.
point. That's a good point. It's because you're probably busy trying to get into those leotards.
I actually, for fun, check into hotels under the name Bruce Wayne because you're allowed to give them whatever name, and they have to call you that throughout your stay there. That's
Yeah.
the funny thing. It's at the front desk, so that people don't know that you're at the hotel or what have you.
There you go. Yeah, because that's so important that people not know where you are when you're.
You don't want stalkers, and some of my clientele are. Sometimes it's,
That's right.
You gotta be careful.
You know what? This is a true story. Michael and I had a show together once in New Jersey. It was the only art show that I had where there was a bouncer at the door.
He was a big guy too. He was a monster.
Right. Hey, like, you sure you need to get in here? I don't know. You're here for some buy some art.
We had a bouncer, and we had potential federal agents at that show.
Yes, that's true. That's
We still never. That's an
that was a
unfinished
strange.
chapter.
Next time I have you, we'll have to go into detail about that the next time you're on the show because that was a very strange story. But
It was a very strange couple
that sort of followed us,
stalked us from show to
show to show.
Never bought anything.
No, they
Showed up at everything.
at the strangest locations. Like, how fancy morning do you here? But I digress.
Absolutely.
I digress.
This is the fun stuff people want to know.
That's right.
They want to know all the crazy stories.
You just had a show in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, is that correct?
I did. It was a show. It was from October 6th through, I believe it was the 28th in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is the town where I went to college at Lycoming College. And so I was back there doing a book signing with the president tract of the college, and then attending the opening. It was homecoming weekend, so it was jammed, and it was a great exhibition. I loved what the gallery did with the work too. So to set it up, if you go online, you look at my Carnival series. I kind of merged a few different works for the show. So I included some drawings from 31 Nights movement that I've kind of created throughout the country, and some of these drawings led to bigger paintings in my Carnival series. So I displayed them both. Some of the paintings are 4 foot by 8 foot, so I had like 4 of those there, as well as some of the smaller 11 by 14s. And then did a really cool thing. I had 30 drawings, they're speed drawings, of a single hollow point bullet and they were all connected by chains mounted on small 6-inch by 6-inch wood blocks. Now, the wood blocks were actually the wood from President Obama's first inauguration that he walked across.
Interesting.
Yeah, a friend of mine got me the wood right after the inauguration. He said, he called me up. He said, you're an artist. You like all this artsy crap. He goes, would you like to have the wood that the president walked across for the inauguration? I said, yeah, I can create some art out of that.
Sure.
So I mounted the work to these, and they suspended them in the gallery from the ceiling in like a circular area, almost the way a bullet would spin.
Wow.
And then we had shell casings spilled over into the ground. And in the storefront of the gallery, I created a crime scene wall with, string attached to photographs with my painting clientele. You and I were in a couple of photos from, our journey through different shows we've done and different people I've met along the way. And they created a whole storefront window with the string coming out 3D onto the floor with a, chalked out body. So it was it was an experience, the exhibition. It wasn't just like you walk in and looking at some art on the walls.
Yeah, there it is. Very nice. I'll have some more wine. But
It was
you were
it was
really
an
pulling people right
experience.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
I think that's so cool.
It was
I
so much
wish I
fun.
could have been on that show. I saw the photos and I was like, I think after you did the installation, you were like immediately text me photos.
Yeah,
Like,
it
this
was-
is so cool.
I love what they did with it.
Yeah.
They did an amazing job setting up the work.
It's important, I think, for people. Well, a lot of time in some galleries, artists simply don't have that freedom. But when you're
Right.
given that freedom, man, that can make it real powerful.
It was, John, the owner of the Commerce Gallery, said to me, we really want something to catch the viewer's attention in their storefront window. They did this cool thing where they brown paper bag the whole gallery so you can't see the work before the opening, which most galleries do, that are on the street level. But he wanted something in that main storefront window that people could see. So that's when I said, I'm going to make you a crime scene wall.
Wow.
And he
And you were
was
like,
he loved
please
it.
do.
And then, so I did that, and then I brought the crime scene wall up there, and then he took it another step further, him and Faith Emmerich, who works with him at the gallery, where they actually brought it 3D onto the floor with, an old bloody shirt that I had from, it was a prop for one of my paintings. And
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it was cool to see the stuff laying on the floor that people could actually check out physically that was actually in the paintings, that I was
that's
wearing in the
great.
paintings.
That is so
Yeah.
very. I saw those photos that you were using yourself as a model. for
Yeah,
that piece.
I was using some with myself. Yeah.
Let me remind people, if you have a question or want to text us a comment, 302-839-1059. It's the Delaware 105.9 FM News Talk hotline. I have to take a quick second to give a shout out to a sponsor. Michael, do you like the idea of luxury living?
Who doesn't?
That's right. That's it. Well, that's exactly what you'll find the residences of Lighthouse Cove, Dewey Beach. They feature brand new 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom luxury condominiums nestled directly next to the Rehoboth Bay in the heart of Dewey Beach, Delaware. The residences feature resort-filled amenities, incredible bay views, bayside dining, and much more. They're family-built, family-inspired, and family-operated, all designed specifically for you. So, welcome to luxury living in Dewey Beach. For more information about the residences of Lighthouse Cove, visit them online at www.theresidencesde.com.
That's fantastic. That's where I go as Bruce Wayne. every
That's
time.
right. That's it. Bruce Wayne's gonna buy one of these luxury condos. Can I visit? When could I have to like sign in under some fake name? Like, those are beautiful condos, by the way. They are seriously. The view is amazing. So we're gonna check those out sometime.
Absolutely.
So we were talking during the break about our collaboration work, and
Yes.
and we don't example every piece that we did has sold. So one of the things we're going to start doing is creating a new series of this. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun if people wanted to be part of this, that they could, that we could find a way that, we could go and have a workshop perhaps.
Right. Create a workshop for them.
Absolutely. And they can be part of the process. They could be joining Michael and I. And I'll tell you, when we're painting, we have a great time. It's just a lot going on, and we have jazz playing with. It's very there's a very interesting narrative going on. We really sort of set the scene, so to speak. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, and I think it's a fantastic, a fantastic synergy that we create, and so we want to create that for other people too. We want to, it could be a husband and a wife that they want to do something together that would be creative, something, and at the end of the day, they would have this work of art that they could actually hang up and always remember the moment that they shared. It could be between a mother and a son. It could be, it could be between
just a
brother
couple
and
of
sister,
friends.
a couple of friends. But we're not talking like a paint night. Nothing.
No.
Nothing
It's
like
not
that.
like, let's
Just-
drink wine and
No,
paint, a
nothing
rose
like-
bush. No, it's not like that. Nothing against doing that, though, by the way. It's a lot of fun for people that.
But
wanna
this
check
is for, this is more of an intimate experience. This
Correct.
is something that is a private experience where it's not out for public consumption. I can't see it being a workshop where we're gonna have, 6 people. It's gonna be one-on-one,
Sure,
really, with
yeah.
whoever, that couple, or whoever it is.
And it takes as long as it'll take. You could be there for 3, 4, 5 hours. Michael and I have literally painted from dusk to dawn.
Dusk to dawn.
We have done it many times.
Well, let's share with them, what that first one was like, so that people can kind of get a feel for what collaboration art is. So I brought with me when I came to visit you. I think it was the
Yep.
first time I came to visit you.
Yeah.
My wife and I came up, and we were hanging out all night long in your studio, and we just decided to paint. And I had some photographs with me of various different clientele that I paint, and you had a box of
Old photos. Yeah.
old vintage photos. So what we did was, I chose somebody, you chose somebody,
Mhm.
and then we put those two faces next to each other, and we started a conversation. Why did we choose these? We had to have chose these for a reason. What's the narrative? What's between these two? And then we created a story. And we made
did.
up one.
It was a phenomenal. It was the first time that it was a fluke. We fell into this. We realized while we were doing this painting together, like, oh, we have something here. This is amazing. We're just sort of moving back and forth. No one is questioning what you're doing. I didn't say, why are you using that color? Wait, don't get on this side. And when we were done with that piece, hours later,
Yeah, it was almost like creating a mural on a canvas together, where I began one side, and then you jumped in and continued the lines, and then gradually we paint over areas and take away areas and put them back in, and we just got comfortable with the decisions. It was almost like you became very excited to see what somebody was going to do next, because you were learning something from them. And I would learn from you like you would learn from me, like, oh, why did he do that? This must be part of his process. And what I've found over the years, even for kids to do things like this collaboratively, is you learn better from each other than while doing something together than you'll ever learn from me telling you what to do or walking you through a step-by-step process. You learn by doing so much better, by experiencing.
absolutely, I agree completely, and especially if it's something creative.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, that the kids are doing together. We live, and I know you've seen this as a teacher.
Yeah.
It's becoming very insular. People, the preferred way of communication is to the point where when you're one-on-one with someone, often people will grab their phones, and there's a disconnect, and that seems to be the preferred method that's out there. And unfortunately, I think, in my opinion, that's damaging people's creative process.
I think it's damaging the overall human experience of having a solid relationship with people on a daily basis. I mean, it's like any clientele that I've ever gotten, I didn't get these clientele through social media circles. I got them through word of mouth, because they liked dealing with me as a person. And they knew by dealing with me that they were going to get a certain quality out of the pieces that I would create. So I think that's a big piece that is starting to become missing from society, and it's a shame. But the collaboration art to create this and show other people how to do this, I think it's a bonding experience. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's a
Absolutely.
soulful experience.
Yeah.
It's spiritual. It's a beautiful thing. It's positive. It's unlike anything anybody could ever do.
True. And then when you're done, and you both come to that place like, this is complete. We don't need to do anything else with this. You're like, wow, we just made this. Look at this thing. This beautiful piece of art we just made.
And we did. It's funny because we've done things like. We've done so many shows together, I almost forgot. There was the Ireland show, for example.
That's right.
Where what we did, I was in my studio, hours away from where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and I created a couple pieces on my own around this compelling theme about Ireland. You created a couple pieces that you felt were important to do.
Sure.
And then we created a few pieces together as collaboration pieces.
True.
And we hung this cohesive show. And what was amazing was when people walked into that show, they couldn't tell whose individual works were whose.
True.
They were
That's
like,
true.
because the work was so, it just flowed together so nicely, and because we had worked together so often, our work started to look very similar in that way.
That was a
So-
great show.
so-
That
was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
lot of
Michael and I
fun.
both have very strong connections to.
And
to
we did it on
Ireland.
St. Patrick's
We
Day.
did. That's why. That's what we did.
We launched
Aye,
it on
it's a
St.
good
Patrick's.
excuse for a painting. That's St. Patrick's Day. I break up the canvas. So it was one of 8 Lucky Charms.
That was a great opening. That was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. But see, that's why collaboration art can be so much fun. I think for people that you listen, if you make a piece of art together, you're really going to end up knowing the other person that you're
Absolutely.
with in ways you maybe never even thought about before.
Yeah, and people that are scared to take that leap, it's an experience that you got to try at least once.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be that fear though. It's like the people that stand outside of the gallery storefront.
That's
Just
right.
Take a step in.
Just come in.
Just
It's
come
all
in.
right.
And your lives will be changed forever.
Yeah.
It truly is a great experience. And I think art, in general, whatever type of art that you do, whether you're a sculptor, whether you're a painter, whether you take photographs, whether you draw, it's part of that human experience. It makes us human. It makes us, contribute, or give something back to the world. You think about all the things that are going on in the world, the arts are still a big piece that never gets taken away.
True. I was having a discussion the other day with someone about history. I can't remember what the context was. And I said, well, when archaeologists and historians go back and look at ancient civilizations, it's the art that they find and that they study.
Yeah, and that's where they get the narratives. That's where
Absolutely.
they develop the narratives from. I mean, if there's a fire, what's the first thing people do? They go and grab their old photos, grab their art, before anything else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They grab these mementos that are visual mementos that have deep meaning to them. One of my tattoos. Hey, shout out to John Minka of Bewitched Stick, because he's brilliant. It's
Like I
Latin.
worked in that part.
Yeah, that's
That's
right. That's a little shout out. Ars longa vita brevis, and which means art is long, life is short. Because art will last. It lasts. The painting by Da Vinci that we mentioned earlier, Salvator Mundi. This is painted in the 1400s. The paintings will stay along and out there. If you want to create something that's going to continue on, do it with art.
Well, back in, I think it was 1994, Bill Gates purchased 18 sheets of Da Vinci's visual journals for $30.8 million, something insane like that. So just to get his hands on a piece of, history, on a piece of art, something like that.
Yeah.
So if it was that, that's how important it truly is. That process, just even your hands on a piece of the process behind what somebody was creating and thinking about.
And the other thing, we've talked about this before, whether it's a painting, a piece of sculpting work, or throwing a pot, you're actually literally creating something that did not exist. You are making something based on an idea, a concept in your mind, and you're taking a variety of different materials and putting them together into a three-dimensional painting. It's almost like magic.
It is, and it was funny, a professor once said to me, he said, he was actually the guy that was at the Newmark Gallery.
Oh, okay.
And Michael, he said, we are the closest thing to the gods. He said it with such passion. He said, we are the closest thing to gods. He said, think about it though. He said, we create something from nothing.
Correct.
He said, most people, they can't grasp that concept. You need to give them a roadmap, give them directions, give them a way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But as artists, we have a blank canvas and we just know what should be there. And we know how to create it it's an accumulation of an experience that we're creating. And that energy stays and it lives on with the piece.
It does. And people get in fights over art that they want to pass down, they want to keep. I mean, art is a powerful, powerful tool.
Well, sure. When my grandmother Violet passed away a few years ago in 2013, she was a self-taught artist, and that was one of the first things that I went for. I really wanted to have her artwork hanging in my house, and so that I could have that piece of her, that energy of her with me all the time. So, I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, it's a beautiful thing, and I hope that people will consider, whether you want to maybe join Michael and I at some point for a collaboration art project. Maybe you want to just try something yourself. Go out to an art gallery. Do not ever be scared to walk into an art gallery. That just blows my mind. We did our book signing recently. I'm in the book. It wasn't my book. I'm in a couple of chapters of the book, and we did that at Gallery 50 in Rehoboth, which is one of my favorite galleries, and shout out to Eddie there for helping us. So that was a great experience.
That was a great experience, and it was funny when I was writing the chapters about Michael, some of the stories in Dual Lives about him. He was having an art gallery opening the next day. And so I decided on a whim to show up and surprise him.
That's
This was
right.
like a Saturday. You had an opening on a Sunday, I believe it was.
Yep.
And so I said, I'm going to surprise him and drive up and visit him. So I get to the door, and Michael's not there. And so my wife's texting me. She's like, I told you should have said something. I said, wait, maybe he's out. I said, where could he be? He's got an art gallery opening in the morning.
Yeah.
So I texted you, and I said, where are you? And you said, I'm
at a party in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. I said, are you kidding me? I said, I'm standing on your porch.
That's all right. I
said,
didn't believe you.
I said, I have cigars. I'm ready, ready to
I'm
hang
like,
out.
what?
Just a painting.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you're not. And I took a selfie real quick in front of your door. You're like, oh my God, you are
That's
at my
right.
door. He said, well, stay a while.
That's
so
right.
I
Make
ended
yourself
up-
at home.
Yeah, I went in his studio, and since I had nothing to do for the next 12, 14 hours, till he was back, I started writing Michael's chapter for the book as I sat in his studio on his computer.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun.
It's very cool. It's a great story. And that's what responsible artists do, folks. The night before their opening, they drive 2.5 hours away and go to a party.
Yeah,
So-
that's the way to go. That's how we roll.
That's it. But we both are guys that have made our living in the arts, and there's many different hats that people put on and can't put on. I'm glad you mentioned your grandmother. I know how incredibly close you were.
Yeah.
You dedicated art to her. She was an artist. Would you say that she introduced you to art? I think you had some very similar stories that she opened the doors for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My family's been completely supportive of me with my art since I was a little kid, and it was every year right around Thanksgiving time. It's a tradition that we keep up to this day with my own son, where we used to go into out of Lyndhurst and go into New York City, and she would point out things about the buildings and the architecture and teach me how to make things with drawings, three-dimensional, and how to shade, how to hold the pencil as an artist, and how to do certain things. And I used to just watch her and just being around it. I used to go, even as a 5-year-old kid, she used to take me to her art critiques with her little artist group up in Lyndhurst. I'd go with her and sit in on these critiques and listen to. So I was constantly around art. My parents always took me to it. So.
That's brilliant. I think that's phenomenal. I just got the hand signal from Fran the man that we have 1 minute left in our show. Michael.
Well, thank you for. I'm so
My
glad
pleasure.
to be here. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I'll definitely have you back on. I want to remind you, check out mbellart.com to see examples of Michael's work, any future shows he has coming up. I'm sure there's a lot on his radar. And while you're at it, you can check out sprouseart.com,
Hey,
and you
look
can
at
take a
that.
look at my work. Got to get a little self-promo in there myself,
Absolutely, as you should.
Yeah.
As you should.
Al, I really am happy that you were here, and we will talk again about getting art made yourself, and with the joys that it can bring you. I really want people to consider that, in a really thoughtful manner. And
Yeah.
you can contact either of us from our websites, and of course you can follow Coastal A&E on Facebook, and you can contact us there. Just search for the Coastal A&E with Michael Sprouse Show. And I think we are going to be out of here, folks, and brave the winter weather. Maybe I'll see some of you guys at the Comic-Con in Ocean City.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
You're welcome.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. We good? Likewise? Good job. That was a fun show, man. Fun show.